Scorpion King command of his army. And like an evil flood, they washed away all that lay before them. When his task was done, Anubis forced the Scorpion King to serve him for all time. His army was returned to the sands from whence they came.
Warning.
This is a safe place for intellectual discussion regarding the Champagne Conversation.
All negativity will be deliciously repackaged and returned to sender. Only positivity and good vibes from this point forward. Now, if you're ready, come on in.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. But sometimes you gotta do that. I was fucked up. I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy. I'm going to rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
Cut it out, Puff. Cut it out. So you were disgusted back then, you're disgusted now. So let me ask you a question then. Was that the last time that you did that to her? Was that the last time you did that to any woman? If you're so disgusted and you went and you got all this help and you feel whatever. And if that's the case, why did you say enough is enough and say that she was lying? Say that, all the things in her lawsuit are not true. That incident was in her lawsuit. I remember that incident because I was around. Remember? I remember her telling me about how you spent $50,000 to get rid of that video. Watching that video the other day was crazy because I thought no one was ever going to see it because of you. And now you're sorry? Really? Cry me a river, bro. You're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. And I'm glad you don't want forgiveness because ain't nobody giving it to you over here. You know what you did. You're fine with your behavior. That's the bottom line. That is you. That person on that video is part of you. And that part of you needs to atone, needs to take whatever is coming to you because you have already sown these seeds. Take your punishment like a fucking man. Talking about you sorry. Get the fuck out of here.
I said I was sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, sir.
I'm sorry, I made a bad mistake.
I'm sorry we quarreled.
Come on, we're sorry, okay?
What's going on, Champagne Gang? Confidants, Fizz fam. Welcome to the chalet located in Champagne City, baby. You are joining me, the Empress, for grown discussions and bubbly banter. Although this conversation today isn't going to be quite that bubbly. But if you're ready to sip, savor, and spill, then let's get ready to get into it. Grab your glass of your favorite bubbly, even if it's sparkling water. Get your chair and scoot up for a second because we got to do some talking. Now, I will let you know that the first part of this video is pre-recorded. I am going to be releasing it live until I get the engagement and get people really in the chat that's engaging back. Then I'm going to release a lot of videos in the live, but they'll be pre-recorded. However, if it's going to be an open panel discussion at the conclusion of the video, I will drop the link so that those of you who want to come up and have a conversation about what we're discussing in the Champagne Conversation you're more than welcome to do so. However, always remember this is a safe place. We're always respectful, and we're always remembering that above everything else, we're all about empowerment. So if you're ready, let's get into the video. Here's my problem with apologizing, right? You already did what you wanted to do, so what are you apologizing for? Somehow we feel like after we've indulged in whatever debauchery that we chose, that somehow coming back and saying, I apologize and I'm sorry and I won't do it no more should make it better, when you shouldn't have done it in the first place. Apologies are for, ooh, I knocked over your vase. Ooh, I broke your dish. Ooh, I hit the curb in your car. I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. I apologize. But you can't cheat on me and come back to me and tell me, I'm sorry, I apologize. Because what are you apologizing for? You can't hit me and say, I'm sorry, because what are you apologizing for? You're sorry that you hit me? You're sorry that you cheated on me? So you're sorry that you did exactly what it is that you wanted to do. Because that's what my issue is when people say, I'm sorry and apologize when it's something that you knew you shouldn't have done in the first place. You already got your pleasure out of it. So why are you now apologizing? And for all of those people who are under the stairs saying, oh, he's asking for forgiveness. When?
I'm not asking for forgiveness.
If he were truly repentant and sorrowful, the first thing he would have asked for would have been forgiveness. Yet he didn't. He told you vehemently that he's not asking for forgiveness. He said he's sorry, but we already know that. He's sorry. He's sorry for the abuse that he caused to women. And that's just the women that we know about. What about the ones that we don't? And we don't even have to say allegedly because he already admitted it. He's sorry for the lives that he's destroyed of young men who just wanted the opportunity to get into the industry, allegedly. He's sorry for grooming young men to be predators and destroying their lives, allegedly. He's sorry for using his power and privilege to tear down rather than build up. He's definitely sorry, but what are you sorry for? When a person is truly repentant, they state what they are repentant for. Did he ever acknowledge her? Did he ever acknowledge anything else he's done? Because that's what godly sorrow is. Since he said that he seeks God, I am so sick of people making a mockery of God. Sick. God didn't tell you not to lie and make a post calling this girl a lie when she came out with her story. Here's the problem, and here's my opinion. This is so much bigger than Diddy. Right now, Diddy is being dangled in front of the law to let him know that we have the power to put you out there and we have the power to pull you back. That's why I played the clip of the Mummy Returns in the beginning with the Scorpion King. He sold his soul for power, and although he thought he was getting what he wanted, in actuality, he was only fulfilling the will of the one who gave him the power. Once the job was done and he no longer had use for him, the Scorpion King had to return to the ground until he was needed again, or until he was destroyed. And that's what's happening with Diddy right now. Diddy is a puppet, but who's the master? That's the real question that we should be asking. There's no way Diddy has done all these things that he's been accused of for this long and he's not sitting in jail yet. They are handing out RICOs like stale sandwiches in jail. Didn't Strawberry's husband just get one? And Diddy just running around telling everybody, take that, take that, take that, take that, take that. Because he knows that he was going to be protected until now. And he's still being protected. But here's the real question. By who? And what line did Diddy cross that they are now dangling him like raw meat to sharks? Because they haven't dropped him yet. He hasn't been consumed. He's just being broken down. He said he hit rock bottom. No, he's hitting rock bottom now. He wasn't rock bottom then. He was on top. And what is our saying? Power corrupts, and absolute power absolutely corrupts. If you want to know what's truly in a person's heart, give them power. There was no remorse in that apology. There was no feeling. There was no sorrow. There was no pain. There was no acknowledgement. There was no responsibility to any individual or individual situation. There was only fear. And what you don't realize is fear can make a person even more dangerous. Because when a person's back is up against the wall, they'll do anything to fight their way out. So now we're going to open up the panel for anyone who wants to come up and have a conversation and tell me what you think about what's going on with Diddy, the Cassie situation. Who do you think is behind all of this? Who do you think is the real puppet master that's controlling Diddy? Because I hope you don't think it just stops at him. If there's anyone in the live who wants to come up, just drop some champagne glasses in the chat and I'll drop the link. And let me just say this. The way that you avoid becoming a victim is to know your worth and then add tax. Confidence, always remember, if it doesn't cause you to elevate, it's causing you to depreciate. Now raise those glasses, clink, and let's drink till we meet again. Ta-ta. Well, hello, Confidence in the building. I see some glasses in the chat. So are you letting me know that you want to come up? Progressive one. Let me drop this link because I really do want to have a conversation with you guys to really see how you feel about what's going on. Not even just with the Cassie situation, but what's going on in general with so many individuals that seem to find themselves in Cassie's situation in the first place. So I am dropping this link. Give me 1 second. The link is in the chat for anyone who wants to come up. You do not have to be on camera if you don't want to. But let's have a conversation because I'm starting to be really concerned about, how do I say it? I'm starting to be really concerned about us as Black women. I'm starting to be concerned about us as a culture. I am extremely concerned about what we're calling the music industry now. I'm starting to be concerned about what we call the church. I'm starting to be concerned about what we consider a standard right now because it doesn't seem like anyone has a standard anymore. And maybe that's the area that we should start at is why does it seem like no one has a standard? So I'm going to give you guys a second to click the link. And I am very new to this streaming thing, so y'all bear with me. All right, it looks like no one has clicked the link yet, but Confidence, I want you to continue to pay attention to what's going on with the Diddy situation, because like I said before, this is much bigger than Diddy, whether y'all know it or not. This is so much bigger than just music industry. This is so much bigger than just what's going on with Diddy in the courts and what's going on with him and Cassie. I am a firm believer that whenever there's something that's going on in the forefront, you also need to be looking behind that to see what's really going on. There's someone way bigger than Diddy that's controlling this thing and that's pulling his strings. And right now, Diddy has hellfire being rained down on him. But I want to know from where. That's my biggest question, because there's no way Diddy could have gotten away with this for so long and not have been protected by someone. Who has been protecting him and who is still protecting him? Those are the big questions that we need to be asking as bloggers, as police, as officials. Who is protecting Diddy still to this day? Because there's no way he's not sitting in jail for the things that he's done, even the things that's just been released. in the video footage with Cassie. Whether or not how old it was, it doesn't matter whether it was 2016 or not. We need to really figure out who's been protecting him this long, because to me, it feels like there's a much bigger cover up going on. So it looks like I have Progressive One. So I'm going to unmute your mic. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
All is well, no complaints. This is definitely a weighty situation. I definitely concur with everything that you've been saying. I never forget, like with my grandma, we call her my nana. She said that you never look at cutting down a tree from the top.
Uh-huh.
You have to start at the root,
That.
because if you don't, then it's going to spring back up. I said that to say this, exactly what you've been saying, but just in a different way. This is bigger than Puppy. It
Mm-hmm.
started with the root. He's just a branch. He holds really ultimately no power. He just holds secrets. There was
Right.
a reason why he recorded all of those tapes, and all of those tapes was confiscated.
I hear you.
So ultimately, you have to go to the root of the matter. Where did this come from? How did it start? And once you figure that out, hopefully you can keep it from happening again. Because this is not an old way in entertainment. It's just been bought out in a new way.
So do you think we should do a deep dive into the music industry, and that we need to start doing a what should I say, a dissection of the music industry to figure out who's really at the top and how this all really started trickling down? Like you said, there's always a root. And until you uproot it from the root, another tree is going to continue to grow. So do you think we need to do a deep dive into the music industry to find out who's really on top and who's always been on top, and really what they're... I remember years ago there was a video that came out, and I've been trying to find it, and I promise I can't. And this guy was talking about how there was a shift in the music industry, and
Mhm.
how it was really to systematically bring down us as a race, as a people, as a culture, by shifting the music into gangster rap and things like that, especially when the cities began to get flooded with drugs and
Mhm.
things like that. So what do you think regarding the music industry? Do you think the music industry itself is the problem?
No, I don't think the music industry itself is the problem, but I definitely do believe there needs to be an overhaul as far as the music industry is concerned. A definite checks and balances that will be put in place to protect people who do not have, I don't want to say the sense, but the will within themselves to be able to have the know-how to be able to get out of some of these jams that a lot of these young women and men have been put in. I don't think it's just an industry problem. I think it's a world problem that's ultimately been created by various different things, from media to music, so forth and so on, where it creates a desperation in people. I feel like that along with the overhaul of the music industry is actually pursuing on how to heal the desperation in so many people in the world in which we live in, because desperate people do desperate things.
Desperate
All,
things. I hear you.
all, all of those individuals that went into Sean Combs' office did not go there by coercion. Some went there willingly. They probably didn't know what they were getting into, but people are so hungry to get on, and they're so hungry to get on at the expense of losing themselves to be able to gain some things and some stuff. And more times than not, for people who are not going to like you anyway. There needs to be a checks and balance with the music industry, and there needs to be a checks and balance from person to person. Because what within you would say this is the only way I can get on. And it's not playing down on or standing on the victim, but it's saying, how do we heal that problem, that desperation problem?
So you think
Because
the problem right now is everyone has a price, or too many people have a price, but the price that has to be paid is probably higher than they thought they were going to have to pay.
definitely. And unfortunately, people are paying it from the lowest of the total poles to the top of the total poles. There's a baby father, or even in its best, a baby mother or father, who are entertaining individuals in order to be able to maintain whatever they feel like they got to maintain. There's individuals right now who are taking a risk on going to prison, and they're stealing from their job. They're not bad people, but they're desperate, just like those individuals. And he's the monster, true enough, for feeding on it. He knew how desperate they were, and he's seen the door open with a desperate person on the other side of it, and he played it to his advantage every single time.
Wow. So do you think, because when you were speaking of, you think it's a world issue, a lot of the issues that we find are the people who are at the top, the people who are in power.
Hmm.
So if the same people who are in power in the world and have that foothold on the world are the same people who have the foothold on the music industry, where do you find the balance? One of the things that I noticed with Cassie's lawsuit, so many different organizations were named. I mean, like big names that you
Hmm.
wouldn't even have thought would have been connected, like Universal Studios, things like that that you don't necessarily associate with rap.
Hmm.
So what do you think that this is saying about those in leadership and those who are in power?
I feel like those who are in leadership and those who are in power, it takes the initiative to understand what, respectfully, rap culture, because I can't say black, or I can't say Asian, I can't even say Latin, because rap is a thing that crosses cultural lines. But I would say for rap culture, for them, ultimately, it's sowing into and pouring into the state of mind with most individuals who listen to rap music consistently, which is, I just, one, either I just need to get away. Two, I just don't give a fuck. Oh, I almost cursed. One, I just don't give a fudge. Uh,
For at the R.
I gotta add. I said fudge.
Okay, that's cool.
But rap music creates a state of being, which is ultimately what the world is right now, self-driven and willing to get anything that they can, how they can. If I'm talking about drug dealing, I'm doing it at the expense of that person who's using the drug. If I'm talking about robbing, I'm doing it at the expense of somebody potentially losing their lives or their hard-earned items that they work for. If I talk about spending time with a bunch of men or a bunch of women, now I'm selling a culture of people on living promiscuously. And I'm not talking about sexual freedom. I'm talking about just out here being loose, wild, untamed, and unsafe.
So what do you think has changed? Because, and the reason I say that, when you think back, we had some, now I'm 47, so we had some extreme, we had Lil Kim, Foxy Brown. Do you
Yeah.
think there was anything different between, we're not talking about the music. Do you think there was a difference in the culture then and the
Yes,
culture now?
I
Because
definitely.
even if you look at it, Foxy Brown's lyrics was just as ratchet as Sexy Red's. I mean, we got to be honest about it. She went there on several songs. Foxy went there. Now,
But
I'm
this is
not
the thing.
advocating for Sexy. Don't get me wrong, because I still think it's all debauchery.
But this is
And
my
it needs
thing.
to be done away with. But my question is, do you think it's a cultural thing? Like, has something shifted in the culture that even though we had those lyrics back when we were younger, they didn't affect us the same way they are affecting this generation now?
Because a word that you used a few ticks back, you said balance. I don't think it's per se all of a cultural change. I think it's what more and more people are allowed to be exposed to.
Okay.
My era and my childhood, I had boundaries and I respected those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Even in my adulthood, even though I had a stint where I was definitely coloring outside of the line, but I have boundaries. This culture, I feel like, has no boundaries, and the music is a representation of the lack thereof. You pointed out
Okay.
earlier with Foxy Brown and Little Kim. Foxy Brown would rap about things like put your lighters up. Every now and then she may make mention of a gun, but it was in the form of protection. It wasn't in the form of robbery. Even Little Kim, which was definitely different, she was just talking about ultimately rhymes with plural pleasure. That's one thing. She wasn't getting on talking about F my baby daddy, respectfully.
Well,
Now she talked about doing stuff to other people baby daddies.
see.
There's a difference.
But what I'm saying is that, so the problem that I have right now, right, is this world has become so highly sexualized. You can't watch a burger commercial without there being a lot of sex. You can't watch a soda commercial without there being sexual implications. I can't
But
say it was like that when I was growing up. Well, no, I can say it was not like that growing up, where everything has a sexual connotation to it. So now you have this generation of young people who are extra overly stimulated in all the wrong ways.
mhm,
How
it's
do you
just
think a case like what's going on with Diddy and Cassie,
mhm.
with what we now see is going on in the music industry, that seems like the whole thing is vile and corrupt, like nobody can be trusted? How do you think that weighs in on this generation who is already overly stimulated and has no coping skills?
I honestly, I would not know where to begin to even to remotely begin to regulate it. We have to first, as far as this culture is concerned, from young adults to some adults, have to get them to understand again what common sense is. Because
Well,
I assure you, we looked at this video and we said, "My God," respectfully, and said, one, where was her family?
right.
Two, I hope this young lady is okay. And three, this man is a fool. But then on top of all of that, I thought about it, I said, I wonder what this generation would say. And for most of them, you know what the response would be? Even from young ladies.
What she do to him?
No, not even what she do to him. That would even surprise me to hear that. What would be heard is, man, what type of money he giving her? I would take that. I've heard it said before.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you will allow an individual to degrade you, sh- drag you around like a trophy, male or female, beat you down just so you can have a bag. Common
Yeah.
sense has to be found first before anything can be regulated. And that would literally mean going back to basics and sitting down face to face with the culture and saying, this does not represent us. We're better than this.
But then the problem is we will have to know what represents us. And I think that we're so lost as a culture.
Mhm.
Number one, we are the one culture who really don't know our origin story.
True.
That's problem number one. Half of us think we came from Africa. The other half think we're native here. There's another half who thinks we came from Jamaica or somewhere. We are the one group of people who have no identity. The problem is you have a bunch of leaders who understand this fact that majority of us do not know who we are, because we can only ascertain who we are based on what someone else told us about who we are. We can't go to a map of Africa unless you've taken a DNA test or an ancestry.com, point to a map and say, oh, this is where my people originated from. Matter of fact, half of us don't know whether or not we were slaves or the descendants of slave owners. I mean, if we're going to talk about it, let's talk. Screwed up,
Definitely.
because everyone in America who is a person of color is not a descendant of a slave. There was black slave owners in the South too. But the problem is we don't know who we are. So we tend to latch on to just anything for a sense of identity. And so because we have such an identity crisis as a people, now all of a sudden we're trying to figure out every time something happens, do I identify with this or do I identify with that? Because I really don't know who I am. So because I don't know who I am, I don't know how to identify.
I feel you on that. Historically, us as a culture, we're always, for lack of a better term, 6 degrees of separation away from what we need in order to be able to fully understand who we are. Because somebody knows or was living in an era where the culture or someone in the culture was somebody. If
Mm-hmm.
no other reason for a person of black descent has no other reason to wake up in the morning and try to figure out how to be the best that you can be, you would have to look at, or not look at, you would have to be in denial of what's right before your face. If we were not powerful, if we were not creative, if we did not have the ability to push the envelope and move change, the leaders that have been assassinated, the leaders that have been imprisoned, I'm talking about our legitimate leaders. Every time some person of color stands up to push the envelope for us to be proud of who we are, ultimately they're erased.
Mm-hmm.
If we were not somebody and we were not a legitimate threat, why would we even be bothered?
But
From the
see,
Black
that's the
Panthers
problem.
to Malcolm
We
X
definitely
to
are a
Martin Luther
threat.
King.
We don't realize that we're a threat yet because we're too busy seeing each other as a threat.
And in that fact, and tying that in with Diddy, this is the reason why he was unfortunately tricked into being less than what he could have been because he fell into someone else's cycle. Because I don't believe he got up out of bed one morning and was just like, hey, I'm about to just go pillaging and beating people. For real.
No, it's power. A lot of here's the problem that I have when we elevate people to these levels of power and authority and influence, right? We don't
Mhm.
take the time to make sure that these individuals are mentally, emotionally, and spiritually stable enough to handle where we're about to ascend them to. We take these children, and because they have such a hit record or a hit song, now all of a sudden we make them instantly famous, right? So now all of a sudden all this money is coming in. All they're thinking about is spending it. How do you know? Because the first thing they go get is not a trust fund. the first thing they go get is not a savings account. The first thing they go get is a necklace, a watch, a new pair of shoes, a belt. It's going to go on their body, but it's not going to go to prepare for the future. It's not going to go to make sure if we have a government shutdown on tomorrow and you can't access your money, that you still have something set up to make sure that you are okay for the long haul. We're just thrusting people in these positions, just like, okay, they'll figure it out when they get there. Then all of a sudden, this person is in this position because your gift will get you through the door. We got to always remember that. So we have this person in this position. They're excelling in this position financially and as far as stature because their gift is so phenomenal. But we're not realizing just because that person is highly gifted does not mean that that person has the emotional EQ to handle the levels that we keep on allowing them to elevate to. We don't put them in position and say, hey, when you get to this point, we're going to make sure that you're set up with this because you're going to need this in order to get to the next level. And after you get to this level, we're going to make sure you're set up with a PA to make sure that when you're out here in public, you're not embarrassing yourself or ruining your brand. So we're going to handle that on this level. And then after you get to this level, we're going to make sure you have this because now you need to protect everything that you built up until this place. We don't instill this into them. So now we're thrusting babies. We're thrusting individuals who never had any power, influence, or authority to the top, and we're expecting them to be successful at it. And now all of a sudden we have all these people either unaliving themselves, unaliving other people, being extremely abusive. Why? Because we didn't teach them while they were on the bottom how to make sure they were mentally and emotionally prepared for the top before they got there.
Indeed. Which definitely, I definitely concur with what you're saying. It, and you just said it in a different way, but in the relation as far as upbringing and instilling that it starts at that root. If
Mm-hmm.
if the root is bad, then the fruit is going to be bad. That's the way it works. No time in my existence have I ever heard about it being in reverse. And if it
Mm-hmm.
was, they cut the tree down or they cut the vine down and they got rid of it. But I believe in the situation as well in dealing with Puffy that you had an individual who was, like I pointed out earlier, who was desperate, who was hungry, and allegedly met a mentor, and the mentor engaged him how he engaged other young men, and then allegedly the mentor's mentor did the same thing to him. So that's why I said if this is factual and comes out not to be alleged, you have to see where that thing starts. And if you cut it off at the head, possibly it will stop it from happening to someone else. And we don't have to have another Cassie, or we don't have to have another one of the host of victims that have been named in this case.
Have you ever wondered and stopped and thought about why you never hear the Rockefellers speak out on this kind of stuff? You know, the big wigs, the ones who actually control the country. Have you ever thought about why you never quite hear them speak out on anything?
I don't wonder why, because I understand real power.
Mm-hmm.
And real power doesn't have to address that it's there. Everybody knows that it's there. I heard a young man say on the show I was looking at, he said, when man wants to show his power, he speaks. When God wants to show his power, he says nothing. Now, just to hear the statement, you would think, oh, he says nothing. Yeah, he says nothing, but that does not mean that he's not working. I think a lot of time we spend too much time talking and not enough time working.
Exactly, which is why I would really like to know why they aren't saying anything. Because here's my thing, right? One thing that I learned back in the church years ago, the oil drips from the head down. Therefore, Diddy is not the top.
He's not.
That's what I need people to understand. Diddy is not the top. He might be one of the top in the music industry as far as hip hop, rap, or whatever genre he happened to be in. I'm not a Diddy fan, never really have been, so I didn't follow his career like that. Diddy is not the top. There is a top that's above Diddy. So if this is pulling on him right now, on this level right here, that means it dripped from somewhere. So there is a leak above Diddy somewhere that nobody's taking the time to investigate. So who can be so powerful to have control over the behaviors of Diddy? Because in all honesty, now thinking about it, I really don't think that apology was even to Cassie. I think that apology was for whoever he embarrassed that's above him, that's now raining down hell on him. I think that's who that apology was for. Because if it was for Cassie, then he would have asked for forgiveness instead of turning around and saying, I'm not asking for your forgiveness. We know you're not, knucker, because this is much bigger than Cassie.
It is.
Your apology has nothing to do with Cassie. It has nothing to do with the music industry. It has to do with whatever is going on in those behind the scene rooms that we know nothing about, but everybody speculates about. This is so much bigger than what we see.
It
And
definitely is.
it's as long as we keep our eyes on what's going on with Diddy, I think we're going to miss the bigger picture. Not only are we going to miss the bigger picture, but we're going to let some things slip through the cracks. That this is a moment that it could be exposed if people look deep and hard enough. But if we let it blow over, then it's going to continue to go the way it's been going without exposure, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does make sense. It
So
makes
I think
all of
it's
the sense.
something much bigger than Diddy that's going on right now that we're not paying attention to. That they want us to keep our eyes on Diddy and what's going on with Diddy. And they're going to keep dropping stuff out regarding Diddy, to keep our eyes off something bigger. The law gonna handle Diddy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this Negro does not need to be punished, because at the
Yeah,
end of the day, you have a choice. Behind everything that you do, there's a choice.
yeah.
You choose to do right, you choose to do wrong, or you choose to play that gray line in the middle between right and wrong. So I'm not saying that he doesn't need to be punished. What I'm saying is there's somebody above him that has protected him for this long. Who is it? Because there's no, let one of us have been accused of half of the stuff that Diddy, even with a good lawyer, let one of us have been accused of the stuff he's accused of, we'd have been under the jail. What do you mean he's still free?
Flying
Someone is
around on his own,
protecting him. Who is it?
free and flying around on his own private jet.
Private jet, coming and going as he chooses. After, who gets their house raided and still walks around free? I've never seen that happen
With videotapes.
with videotape. And they're still free, not in jail, no indictment. No, they're handing out Ricos like glasses of water right now.
I I I definitely concur with you. You do the crime. If you commit a crime, you need to pay for said crime. And he has committed a number of crimes and has to answer for those. But like you said, I cannot allow myself also to be misdirected, because even though this Diddy thing definitely deserves its proper amount of attention, there's still some Cassies and there's still some other young men that's in there in Cassie's place where she was
Yeah,
right now as we speak.
right.
There's a young lady that's being beat, and all
Yep.
she wants to do is to be able to have a better life. There's a young man who's giving up something that's going to literally snatch his soul. No pun intended. And he'll never be the same. It's
Go
one
ahead.
thing it's one thing for you to do an act because you want to. It's another thing because you feel like you're forced to and you have no choice. And there's a lot of people who feel like they have no choice. That's why Diddy's and individuals like Diddy will will, if not careful, have an open door to be able to do what they're doing with the no end if it's never checked.
So do you think everybody involved should be charged? And when I say everybody involved, I mean he would have had security that knew about this. He would have had um just anybody that knew this was going on and covered it and didn't
Just
say anything and didn't come to her assistance. Do you think, because I'm starting to feel like until we get to a place where everyone is held accountable in the situation, we're going to continue to have these situations.
now that that would definitely be amazing. But it's a matter of actually again knowing how far this goes. Knowing how far this goes will tell you if there's even remotely going to be a change. And that's not saying that I'm not hopeful. I'm an optimistic individual. But I also understand depending on how far this goes. If this goes, say this goes to the top 5 record companies, just as an example. Do you know what kind of money that would mean? Because rap, R&B, soul music is international and people love it. So that money, I assure you, those powers that be are not trying to lose their money. I think the reason, matter of fact, it's taking so long for Diddy because the powers that be are trying to figure out how to allow him to take his last flight and not lose anything.
So you think they're trying to cover themselves up and try
Yeah,
to figure out.
yeah.
And that's why I keep saying it's so much bigger than him. And I think there's somebody behind this that we're not paying attention to because
I mean,
it's been covered up for too long. Too long.
it.
I was absolutely disgusted first of all, I've always thought there was something off about Diddy. I never thought he could rap. I never thought he had talent. Only song that I really cared for Diddy on was Shake Your Tail Feather with Nelly. Outside of that, I didn't care for anything with him on it. But I think
Ironically enough,
this
that he would be on that
long,
song.
huh?
That's crazy that he would have been that he was on that song.
Right.
And
So, but who's behind him? Like, who set him up? Who's the real power in the music industry? That's the question. So if you look at forget record label names, right?
mhm,
Who is behind them all? Because all of them report to somebody else. They're not, even if it's the bank they report to, there has to be a head. No one's operating independently and making their own decisions. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a need for a what's the award show that does the music at the end of each year?
the Grammys or
Yeah,
Billboard
whichever one it is.
Grammys.
Who's over it? Who's running it? Who's at the head that's controlling this stuff that has it covered up? I mean, when you look at what was his name, Jeffrey Epstein or whatever, his island, when it
Mhm.
started coming out, all these people that was protecting him and covering him and all of that, but it really didn't come out fully until after he passed away. Who's been protecting and covering Diddy? And I agree with what you said not too long ago when you said there's a young lady somewhere right now who's being abused, who we need to protect and we need to find out about because she might not feel like she can escape. And the problem with that is she might not be able to make it out like Cassie did.
Yeah.
Who is the young man right now that's going through that you done took his whole manhood and now he doesn't feel like he can talk to anybody about what he's going through because he feels like now he's helpless. But because nobody's talking and nobody knows who's running this shit, guess what? You still have people back here being abused. Why? Because all the attention right now is on Diddy. Whenever I'm highly a conspiracist, and I feel like this. Whenever everyone's trying to force your attention in one spot, we need to be looking somewhere else. And right
Yeah.
now, all the spotlight is on Diddy. Who else do you see in the music industry being talked about as much as Diddy right now?
No one.
Exactly. Why is that? Because of Cassie? You think Cassie was the first abused woman in the industry? What about Miss Chalet? She didn't get this much attention.
Yeah, this is true. But at the same token, too, even outside of looking at what we're looking at before this point that I'm about to make, as far as uh, just knowing the root of the matter and knowing who's at the head of everything. Also, we had to keep in mind too, what we do know is factual, which there, well, allegedly, we don't know if it's factual. We just know what they said because I ain't seen no tape. You got all these videotapes. Those videotapes had people on them. We don't know who those people were who was on that tape.
Right,
So you got individuals like that too who are saying, let's get rid of him. And you know his parties were always star-studded and had
right.
the who's at those parties. And you don't know who was on those tapes. So those individuals might have wanted to cash in too. He just put too many eggs in one basket, and now they all break.
I hear you. I just want to know what it's going to take for us to get to a place of change. Because we can talk all day long,
Hmm.
but it seems like it's getting nowhere and cycles are repeating themselves over and over and over again. So, what do you think, in your opinion, would cause real change? Music, culture, because there's a lot of countries that have shut down rap music. And you can't play rap music in that country, it's against the
Hmm.
law. So, do you think that's where we're coming to with music and the
I
music
don't.
industry?
I don't because it creates too much revenue here. It creates too much revenue in the states. So if it gets shut down, it's going to be something to go in its place. We just got to look at how it's happened historically.
Hmm.
People thought um, rock and roll was gonna come and go. That started as a black, then it got taken from us, and then they ran with it. Country music, same thing, and the list goes on and on. Respectfully so. Kudos to everyone outside of the culture who did country music, but it definitely started with the culture first,
Hmm.
and it started in a place of anguish and pain, and people just trying to tell their story to be able to get by. But it was taken and transformed into something else. But strongly, I stand on that point. Will they ever remotely look at shutting it down? I don't see it happening unless it starts costing money. But you see individuals still, even while this very thing is going on, is still packing out arenas to be able to hear the music.
Right.
I even go on TikTok and I see people using Diddy sound bites.
I've seen people on TikTok say, like I said before, what is it that she did to him? And I think it's just this new age world. Like I say consistently, I don't know what happened post pandemic after the siren got turned on. I don't
I
know if
think
it did something to our brain cells. I really don't know, but we have turned into such a calloused society where we're so unaffected by anything. We're unaffected by pain, we're unaffected by murder, we're unaffected until it hits home.
yeah, yeah.
Then we have all the affectedness in the world. When it finally hits home and we ourselves have to deal with it, then all of a sudden we want everyone to rally behind us. But when are we going to start having that same drive and tenacity for everyone around us. I can't sit by you and know that you're going through something and not care about the pain that you're going through. I can't have a family. And that's why I asked, where was Cassie's family? There's no way in heaven, hell, or beyond I'm going to have a family member that I love, someone that's close to me, that I'm not paying attention to every single thing they do. How you move, how you talk, how you dress, how you behave. There's nobody around me to this day where there's something wrong with them and I don't know it. Never. I can look at them and tell, hey, what's going on? You good? Is there a problem? When did we stop being like that with each other? Where we just know, where we care enough to know and to pay
Mm,
attention.
yeah. Selfish ambition has taken the place of genuine connection and family love.
Hmm.
And I say that firmly because you have every day, which I rarely watch the news. I try to watch world news, but just about every day on local news where a sibling has killed another sibling, a husband has killed a wife, or a wife has killed the husband, or the husband has killed the wife and the children.
Yeah.
Just selfish ambition, whether it be as evil as the what I just used that as an example, or something as simple as sharing funds. It's a dying art form. Everybody is out for themselves. You made mention of Cassie's family and where was Cassie's family. Now I'm just throwing it out there as a possible scenario. This individual was able to manipulate grown men to do his bit. He was able to manipulate a young budding artist or intimidate to be able to do his bidding. And then you think he didn't enforce that same will, but I'm pretty sure in a very mass way to Cassie's family. If y'all need anything, I got you. And they know he has. And it goes back to my first original point, which was there's a severe desperation problem in the culture.
So, do you think it's a desperation problem or do you think it's a greed problem?
I I think they go somewhat hand in hand. When I say desperation, I mean desperation on multiple layers. Desperation for more money, desperation for more popularity, desperation for more things and stuff. Just genuinely every day waking up desperate, like looking for it, like desert in the water. And don't get me wrong, one should want to progress. One should want to be better spiritually, physically, financially, mentally, economically, socially. You should want to be better, but you shouldn't want to be so much in a better position that you will put yourself in the lowest of places and saying this at the expense of going higher. That makes no sense.
Because here's the thing, right? There's different types of desperation.
Definitely.
So, I can be desperate because I'm in a struggle, right? And I'm
Hmm.
tired of struggling.
Hmm.
That's a desperation. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go too far and, jump off the cruise ship into the ocean because I'm desperate.
Right.
But that means I'm just tired of struggling and I really want this to get to a place where I'm okay. So I'm desperate to find my way out of the struggle that I currently find myself in. That's one desperation, right? But then
Hmm.
you have the other side of the spectrum where you have people who are desperate just for money. It's not about
Hmm.
the struggle. It's not about I'm trying to get my family out the hood. It's not about I'm trying to provide a life for my family. It's just I'm desperate because I want a bag. I want to chase money. All I do is wake up and go to sleep thinking about money. And that kind of desperation becomes dangerous.
Yeah, and the latter one is the one that I'm speaking of.
Okay.
That level of desperation that removes all boundaries that one has previously set for themselves.
You just want the bag by any means necessary.
Any means necessary, whether it's a person, an animal, whatever you got to do. And a lot of individuals out here have stepped into that.
So, where do you think we went wrong as a culture, as a society? Where do you think we went wrong? Because when you stop and think about it, when we were younger, even though I didn't care about it, caring up, but there was still enough of them that we looked up to that we done found out is trash.
Hmm.
That will make you look back and see, like, I can't believe I looked up to this person. I can't believe I equated this individual with the music that they sung. Brian McKnight, prime example. I am a firm lover of Brian McKnight's music. Hate the individual's personality, but love his music until now you learn he got kids that look like him that he doesn't take care of. But you the same one singing start, what was it, back at one?
Hmm.
So you didn't mean that for your baby mama? The kids
Now,
that you had with her? That song didn't equate to her.
well, no.
It only equate to the non-melanated ones. Like, it makes me really want to know, where did we go wrong? Or do you think it's just a character issue? Or do you think it's grooming? Do do
I
you
think it's
think
all of the above.
do you
I
think
think
go ahead.
I think that it's all of the above.
Okay.
I think that it's all of the above. It's a character issue. It's a desperation issue. It's it's all of the above.
So do you think Diddy started out like this, or do you think it was groomed in him over time?
I think he was groomed. I think he was groomed because if he was this individual and he was this shrewd of a monster, he would have been a billionaire a long time ago. I believe.
Well,
But I remember
people that
when,
really didn't start hitting that billionaire, not that I know of. Now, it's just my opinion because I haven't done any research. Just me trying to think back. People didn't really start. You didn't really see a mass influx of musical millionaires until what, like the 2000s, really?
but this is what I'm saying. So let's just play a game of correlation.
Okay.
I wish I had the ability to be able to do so, to be able to look back and see. I would love to see um what's the correlation of what happened after Diddy's first three, or even his first party, and around like his third or fifth party, and see like where he was financially and what he had on the table. Because you're talking
Mhm.
about an individual that opened some doors that before that point no one had been able to open on that level. Now you have Fubu and things like that that came
Now
out of
press pause for a second. Don't lose your thought. But why do you
Mhm.
think that is? Because
Why do
where
I
did
think
Diddy even come from? Like, why do you think that is, that he was able to open doors for people that nobody else could?
I think it goes back to that word that you use. He was groomed. I think that his mentor had the same type of mentality and the same type of power thirst that he did. He,
Hmm.
he enforced his will on him, and then he continued the cycle. Because when you look back at it and it does like his whole story, he literally started at the bottom at Uptown Records and then magically moved up. Now, this is an individual that has been sitting in rooms with the likes of Mary J. Blige, Jodeci, Heavy D. Albie Shore, and the list goes on.
Got it.
This individual is sitting in there, and all the time, I'm pretty sure after his mentor engaged him the way he engaged him, he began to formulate his plan.
So you really think it's a lot of grooming?
Oh yeah, yeah, a continuous
So,
cycle. It's an age
so,
old adage.
so
Two
if
people.
if it's grooming, and we're just gonna assume
Listen,
that the groomers are not deceased, then potentially they're still out there, still grooming.
oh heck yeah, yeah.
Or do you think they set him in spot to be the new groomer, and now they're trying to put somebody else in place? They're trying to get rid of him and put somebody else in the spot.
Oh, somebody else is going to be in the spot. It's just a matter of who. It's just a matter
So
of
do
who.
you, what I'm
I
saying
think
is, do you think they're now done with Diddy and they're
yes,
ready to put someone else in his spot? Do you think that's why so much stuff is coming down on Diddy's head right now?
I definitely do because nobody expected. I'm pretty sure none of them expected for Cassie to come forward, but she did.
Hmm.
But I
You know,
also
Cat Williams gave everybody courage to come
this
forward.
this is true. But I definitely feel like one of those videotapes that was in that box shouldn't have been in that box, and somebody found out about it
Yeah.
because the amount of boxes they were bringing out of that house that looked like decades worth of VHS tape.
Yet he's still a free man.
Yeah, true.
And that's why I said in the video, and let me pause for a second just for anyone who's coming into the live. I did drop the link. We're just having a basic conversation about how do you think we ended up here? Do you think this has to do all with the music industry? Do you think this is just a character thing? Do you think this is a culture thing? Do you think we need to be stopping to identify who above Diddy is controlling all this? Who's protecting him now, and who's been protecting him all of this time? Um, if you want to hear my full commentary, like I said before, right now we are live. I am live. I'm communicating with you live. But usually when I drop a video, I actually drop a pre-recorded video first. Um, because I don't have, being a new channel, I don't have as much engagement in my chat yet. So until I have more subscribers that are tuning in to the lives and communicating and jumping on the live and maybe hitting the link, then I will be dropping pre-recorded videos in the beginning. And then I'll drop a link after the pre-recorded videos for anybody that wants to come up and talk. So if you want to go back and rewind to the beginning and listen, it was probably like a 20-minute video of my feelings on this apologize that Diddy gave to absolutely no one at all because he didn't address anyone. Then feel free to rewind and catch that, or rewind and catch it at the end. And if you want again to jump on the live and talk to me and Progressive One, who has joined me on the live today, then come on up, hit the link. Okay, go ahead, Progressive.
You posed a question earlier, and you posed it a number of times throughout. Like, what can we do?
Mhm.
I don't know what to do in order to make it happen on a mass scale, but I feel like there needs to be a return uh, to self, and what I mean by that is self value, self love,
Mhm.
self worth, because a lot of people are lacking that. When you love yourself, you won't allow anyone or anything, unless it's beyond your power, to hurt you or disrupt your peace.
I
And
can agree with that.
how to make that happen on a mass scale, I don't know. But I know there's a lot of people out here who don't love themselves and don't have any self value.
But but it's a lot of what we see. And a lot of what's been and I agree with you. It's a lot of what we see, and it's a lot of what's been inbred on the inside of us.
Hmm.
If you look on Instagram, all you see is a certain body type. Bunch of women walking around looking like ants.
You said body type. All you see is booty.
That part, I was getting there next. You remember when I was growing up, we had actual dances. Stanky leg, the cabbage patch, the wop. The old one, not the new one. The wop, um, the butterfly, the
Ain't
tootsie
nothing wrong with a little.
roll.
Ain't nothing
Even
wrong with a
doing the
little.
butt.
That
But
little-
it was just a little butt twirl.
Hey,
Now everything is twerking, and if your legs ain't up in the air with your legs split open, or your booty ain't popping, clapping, and jumping 150 miles per hour, you're not dancing.
true. That has definitely been a stage that has been set. But I cannot go forward and let you pass by what you said like that.
What I say?
And to all of my seasoned queens out there, I ain't gonna say the OLD word. To all my seasoned queens, we are definitely down for season WAP. But moving on. At the end
But
of the day,
so seriously, that's everything. So if this is all that's being thrust into people's face, it's going to be quite hard to tell these people to love themselves. Hold on, my computer then came unplugged. To tell people to love themselves who are already struggling with loving themselves.
hmm
But what you're throwing in their face is, no, you don't have to love yourself. Fix it.
yeah,
You don't have to love the way you look. Go get it cut off. You don't
bop it,
have
bop
to
it.
love what you look. Go get it injected in. You don't have
Mhm.
to love the way you look. I've done reviews of Rolly laying on the table and getting filleted like a fish because she didn't love the way she looked.
Right. Whole bop it body section. Just twist it, pull it, turn it, cut it.
Right. Like she had a date with the Hattori Hanzo sword and Beatrice Kiddo. Just because we're instilling, no, you're not okay the way you are. Change it. It's okay for you not to like the way you are. Change it, and change it fast. Because that's what surgery tells you to do. Change it
It's
and change it fast. And change it now. You don't have to work out. So what we've done is we've taken things that people used to work toward, like going to the gym and having a nice body and working out and investing in it, putting your time and energy in it, so until you get the results that you want. We've taken that, and now everything is instantaneous.
yeah.
Everything is instantaneous. So now, how do we help people learn how to love themselves when the entire world now is telling you you don't have to love yourself? Go to Goals Plastic Surgery. They'll help you learn to love yourself. Not look in the mirror. Not look in the mirror and tell yourself you are beautiful. You are gorgeous. You are wonderful. You are enough. There's no one like you. You are a designer's original. Anyone trying to be like you could only be a copycat of an original design. But those are not the things that we teach. And because we spend so much time not teaching that, those are the things that the people don't want. I guarantee you, if I step back and look like right now, right, at the number of views that I have in, let's say, my Solstice Sunday, as opposed to the number of views that I have on, let me just say a vid, because I've done so many videos on Rolly or the baddies, the numbers don't even match up. And why don't they match up? because people don't want to hear anything about working towards being a better you. People want to hear, how can I become a better me right now?
True, true. But that's because of the fairy tale that people are being sold through various different outlets, from social media to movies to to television series, of getting the things that you want and getting them quickly. But unfortunately, in the real world, to get things going and to establish yourself, build a legacy, a foundational legacy, it's one day at a time.
Right,
Even if someone comes and puts $1 million into your hand right now, any person, and you may have a business deal, you still have to do the legwork. You
right,
can't throw your money out and say, become a business. You got to do the legwork. And some days it'll be good, some days it'll be bad. But consistency will win the game. But so many people opt out when they don't see immediate results because of our proneness to be so addicted to instant gratification, which is also under the umbrella of desperation. You
right.
do whatever you feel you have to do for you to feel okay. You're not thinking about the world around you, how it's going to affect the people around you. Yeah, I understand you getting on, you're getting money, and you're out here in the street, but it's not just going to affect you, because if people can't get to you, then they're going to get to your family. Just
Yeah,
like someone who's saying, I want to be an actress, I want to be an actor. Now, you may be one of the fortunate ones. You go into a room and they just want to just put you on because of your talent and your gifted ability. But what if you go in one of those rooms and they want more than your talent and your ability?
right.
Who's there to encourage you, to say you don't have to do that? It may
But
not happen today.
here's the sad truth. And maybe this is a discussion that we can continue tomorrow. Here's the sad truth. You know, we used to ask the question all the time, how bad do you want it? And I think the problem is that some people want it too bad.
Hmm.
Some people want it way too bad that they're willing to do anything for it. Not only are they willing to do anything for it, they're willing to do anything to hold on to it. And I think that's the trap that Diddy fell into. He
Hmm.
wanted the power so bad, he was willing to do anything for it. Kind of like, and it's the whole premise as to why I included that clip of the mummy in the beginning of the video. It's the same thing to me. To me, it feels like he wanted it so. Come on now, the name is Bad Boys. I don't even have to say anything else. Bad Boys. He wanted it so bad he was willing to do anything for. You know who he if you wanted to look at something to kind of help you see how Diddy kind of was grown. To me, whenever I think of Diddy, I think about Jamie Foxx character in Dreamgirls.
Mm. Yeah.
I actually used to wonder, like, is this story about Diddy? Like, I literally said that to myself when it came out, because that's what it felt like. It was like, are they talking about Diddy? Is this a lot going on?
Mm.
But that's the world that we live in. People
Yeah.
want it so bad that they're willing to go in the room and give up the goods, because I'd rather give up the goods and walk out this room with 2.5 mil than not give up the goods and walk out this room empty handed. Not realizing when you start giving up the goods, you kind of, that's like having a good run for the cartel. and expecting it to be a one and done. It
Definitely
doesn't
not.
work that way. And that's what we don't understand. And unfortunately, because our children don't have any more role models, these are the models that they're following after, the ones who don't understand.
Yeah.
And of course, because we're on the outside looking in, it's you don't know what you're talking about. No, I know what I'm talking about because I am on the outside looking in. It's much easier if you're in the ocean and I'm on the shore. It's easier for me to look in the ocean and tell you what's 5 miles ahead of you in that ocean than it is for you, because while you're in the ocean, you're paying attention to what's under your feet, what's on the side of you, what's above you, what's around you. My scope of vision is much broader than yours because of where I stand. Because I'm not in the middle of it with you, I can look at it and see what's going on. But a lot of these children and these young adults, they don't want to see it that way. They just want to do everything their way because you only live once. Yeah, but you only die once too. And my concern is, how do we stop more of them before they become a Diddy? And the
As of
sad
right,
part is, I don't even think Diddy is the only one. Diddy is just the one with the most power
yeah, for his level,
for his
but
level. That's what
I
I mean.
definitely,
For
I
his
definitely,
level.
definitely concur with you. He definitely, I can see that tie-in between him and Curtis from Dreamgirls.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, Diddy just pushed it to the next level, and he wasn't stepping into the bad side. He was stepping in the backsides, unfortunately. But
But that seems to be, I think the more that I find out, and I can't just say the music industry, because if we talk about the music industry, we have to talk about Hollywood too. So maybe what we'll do is table that for tomorrow, same time, 9:30, 10 o'clock, maybe ish. And maybe we'll just talk about the industry, period. Music industry, movie industry, all of these industries that's been set up. Because at
I'll
some
be
point, we've got to figure out, how do we change the narrative? My channel is always about changing the narrative. So, how do we, as a people, as a culture, how do we change the narrative? And this isn't a black thing, this isn't a white thing, this is a world thing, it's a people thing. How do we change it? Because we still have babies who are coming up who have to come up in this. I have a grandson who's 7 years old, and I'm so afraid to let him leave my sight because everything is so perverted. I
yeah.
have a son in college, and I'm so afraid for him to be at college because everything is so perverted. I have a son in the Air Force, and I'm afraid for him to be in the Air Force because everything is so perverted. My two daughters are thugs, but I'm afraid for them walking down the street because everything is perverted. I just covered the case of Sade Robinson. Just covered her case.
I
Didn't make it
think,
home from a first date.
yeah, I think in that instance to be able to help catapult this change that we're talking about, as far as specifically with young people, I haven't quite figured out as far as adults is concerned, but as far as
Mhm,
young people is concerned, is we need to have more transparency. So many times not older people, seasoned people present
mhm,
themselves as flawless and without a chip or had no issue. No, be honest. Be honest about issues. Be honest about the world that we live in. Definitely don't give them too much too fast, but help them to understand this is the world that we live in when it comes to law enforcement. This is the world that we live in when it comes to credit management, whatever the case may be open and honest with them. Unfortunately, a lot of kids don't get what they need to growing up, and then they grow up and be freelance adults that
Right.
have no type of skills to be able to navigate the world around them.
Hmm.
Ultimately, which creates that desperation that I aforementioned.
But here's the thing, and here's the scary part of it. A lot of these kids do have the skills. It's just that with a skill set, if you've ever changed a toilet, it's not just a matter of pulling the toilet off and placing another one down.
True.
This generation of children who want that to be life. They want life to be just a simple turn of the corner and everything is okay. They don't want to work for anything. They well, and again, this will be something, and I'm going to put together a whole list of what I want to discuss on the next live because I want to talk about, let me see here because I have my notes. What are the impacts on the victims, psychological effects of abuse? How important is it for victims like Cassie to receive public and legal support? What are the impacts on the culture and the industry with situations like this? Um, what kind of legal and emotional support do victims even have? Because a lot of the problems are that when victims come forward, there's no legal support for them. Like someone coming forward to accuse someone else of SA. And y'all forgive me because I have to like stop and think about the words I get ready to say because YouTube is so censored and it to me it's so childish because these are conversations that need to be had. The only thing that should be censored is if people are using these terms
In
or
a
trying to
derogatory
do
manner.
these terms. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're doing videos where you're showing appreciation for these situations, if you know what I mean, without knowing what I mean.
Definitely.
Outside of that, a person ought to be able to say, this individual was aped, this individual was this, so that people can get a vivid picture of what's going on instead of sugarcoating it by saying aped. Like, come on now, y'all. We adults, these are things that need to be talked about. It needs to be discussed so that we can move forward and people can experience real healing. People can get their word out, people can get their heart out, people can get real healing. But they can't because everything is sugar coated, everything is censored, except the young folks shaking their ass and popping coochie all over the screen. That's not censored though. And this is another thing that I'm saying. I can't say sexual assault, but a 14-year-old can pop her ass all over the internet, knowing it's predators out here. And you don't think that should be censored. So it's like we're selecting what we feel we want to censor and what we feel we don't want to censor.
Yeah. But again, with those the young ladies that you forementioned, some of those young ladies come from really good families. They have really good parents and they have a village behind them. But some of those young ladies have the opposite of a village behind them. And someone is saying, yeah, baby, do it, do whatever, faster, whatever case may be. Because they say, yeah, this is my ticket. This is how we get out. This is how we make it out of here. They just had a whole documentary on Nickelodeon talking about the whole dark past of Nickelodeon. These were kids, so they weren't signing contracts.
Right.
And they ended up in these rooms with these individuals who bought you. Because you not taking my kid in no room without me. First of all, I'm their representation, probably, and I'm also their guardian and their protection.
Right.
But desperate people do desperate things.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you, Progressive One, for joining me on the panel today. So
And
glad
you,
you made it. Um, we're going to try to go live again tomorrow at 9:30. Hope you're here.
hopefully, I could catch it.
Alex Trey, if you want to come up when we go live tomorrow and share your thoughts on, because we're probably going to do a part 2, but I really want to go into the effects that this has on society, abuse, and this thought process of I can treat you like an object, basically treat you like trash and get away with it and be okay with getting away with it. So I really want to have a conversation about what does this really mean, this whole situation? Because again, I say this is a much bigger picture than we think it is. But thank you for joining me in the chalet for another sip, savor, and spill. So confidence. Until next time, always remember, if it doesn't cause you to elevate, it's causing you to depreciate. Now raise those glasses, clink, and let's drink. Until tomorrow, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ta-ta.